Let's talk about eager loading of our stuff. So as great as it is that we're waiting until the user actually checks this button before we load all of the code for it, especially if the user's connection is kind of slow and then they come around here and they say, okay, I want to load the globe. We're going to be sitting around here looking at this loading screen for a while, and I don't think all the users are going to be super jazzed about that. So what if we can have our cake and eat it too by saying, let's just load what's necessary for showing the show globe checkbox, and then once that's all loaded, let's go ahead and wait until the user focuses the checkbox or makes some sort of indication that they want to check the checkbox, and we can start loading at that time so that by the time the user comes around to say, okay, I want to check this box, we've already started loading the code or maybe even finished before the user actually completes that check. So what we're going to do to make this work is I need to know when the user is going to focus or mouse enter on this label to make some sort of indication that, oh, I'm going to check this checkbox. So we're going to add an on mouse enter and an on focus. And for both of these, we're going to have a load globe function. So some function to start loading that globe. Now we're going to get a warning here. So let's go ahead and make that function called load globe. And all that this is going to do is we need to kick off this dynamic import for this globe. And Webpack, which is our bundler here, or the browser if you're doing this natively, or whatever other bundler you have, maintains a cache of all of the promises that are created for these dynamic imports, as well as the resolved values for each of these. So it doesn't matter how many times you call these, it's no big deal. We can go ahead and just call it right here. And then when React comes around and calls this function to load the code for this lazy component, it's already in that cache. So here we're going to get an ESLint warning for this because it's just kind of silly. So we could just return this, but we actually don't care about the return value. But in any case, now if I save this, and here, let's go ahead and go to fast because I don't want to wait so long. And now we'll go to slow. And when I hover over this, ka-chow, we're loading all the code that we need. And then by the time I click on show globe, boom, it's right there. It's ready for me, even though my network was slow. Same thing for if I refresh here, clear all this stuff, go to slow again. And if I focus on it, then I also start loading it. Then I hit the space bar and I've already started loading it. So it doesn't take that long to load, even though I'm on a slow 3G network. So with this, I kind of get my cake and eat it too, because I can start loading the code as soon as I have a hint that the user is actually going to want to get that code and use it. So in review, all that we did here was we added an on mouse enter and an on focus to our label, which to us is an indication that the user is going to need this code. Now, one interesting thing about this is if you squint, these two functions are exactly the same. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take this, we'll call this load globe, and then we'll put load globe right here, and boom, I've just got rid of some duplication. That's nice. And it will do exactly the same thing that we did before. So now if I go slow 3G, I hover over this and we start loading right away. I click on it and boom, there it is waiting for me. So if you ever have a situation where some user interaction is triggering some code to load and it's taking a while for that code to actually load, you can go ahead and kick it off early by adding event handlers, which would indicate to you that the user is about to start loading that code.